your most recent release is Rock and Roll.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. I almost forgot about that one, and then it came out. Yeah, so long ago, you know. I think we tracked that a couple of years ago or something, you know. It's funny how long those things take to come to fruition or, you know, to actually come to life. But yeah, that's a funny story. I mean, we were tracking our last record, and the producer, this guy Cameron Webb, he had worked a lot with Motörhead. He'd done a few of their latter records, you know, later day records. Yeah, and so he was really close to Lemmy, and he had a bunch of the gear. We've recorded there before, and there's a bunch of Motörhead gear there. Um, and I guess when the guys were tracking the instruments, I wasn't there for part of the time, and so they kind of came up with this plan to pick a song, track it, and then just have it ready for me to put a vocal on. Honestly, it kind of pissed me off because Motörhead is one of my favorite bands of all time, and I've been listening to them since I was, 13 or something, the 70s. And I don't think I would have chosen the song that they chose. But hey, they did a great job with it. And it is a cool song. It is sort of quintessential, in a way. But yeah, it was funny. I mean, I finished the vocals up for the album, and Cameron said, "No, we got one more to do." And I'm like, "Cam, what are you talking about, man? That's it. Like I wrote these songs. It's done, And yeah, it was hilarious. And then he played it for me, and I was like, "What the, how come it's not Bomber or Overkill or we've been playing Ace of Spades and Lagwagon for decades." But of course, I think Pennywise or something had already. Basically, all the songs have been claimed, and this song was tracked. And yeah, I didn't really even know the song all that well. I had to kind of listen to it a few times and go, okay, well, it's a Motörhead song, Yeah.
It's
Anyhow.
interesting about Motörhead because they never classed themselves as a metal band. And when they came out in the late 70s, 80s, you were mentioning Bomber and
Yeah.
Overkill and things like that.
Yeah.
The punk crowd loved them.
Yes.
And the metal crowd loved them. But they were like, no, we're just a rock and roll band. So it's really weird that, being from the punk world, what was it about them that growing up, you were like, these guys?
Exactly what you just said, actually. I mean, I grew up listening to bands like Black Sabbath and Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, all those late 70s, early 80s metal. I mean, I liked that stuff a lot, and Motörhead in particular. But I also love the Ramones, and I listened to a lot of LA punk and British punk, of course. Yeah, it was weird in our scene here in California, in the town I grew up in. There were only a couple bands that were okay with the punks, that were metal, you know what I mean, or rock and roll, and that is the best way to put it with Motörhead. They really do they're right in the middle there, I mean, I don't really think of them as a metal band either. They're just pure rock and roll. I mean, that's exactly what they do, and I don't know that really many other bands do that. Motörhead owns their own lane. It's awesome. But yeah, the punks were like, yeah, Motörhead, they're cool. You'd see the guys with the jackets with all the punk rock patches, and they'd have a Motörhead one. And every once in a while, they'd have an Iron Maiden one. And I'd be like, what? And they were like, yeah, Maiden's cool, The early years, the Diana years.
Just 2 albums, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyhow, yeah.
So you've recently, we'll talk about Lagwagon now, because that's actually why you're here, not about Motörhead.
It's so much more fun to talk about Motörhead, though. Isn't that more fun? Yeah.
Isn't it just? No offense, but yeah, it is.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, well, that's a bit awkward, yeah. So I mean, on that, the tour that you're going to be doing in Australia very shortly, when you do get here, 9 shows, sorry, which includes the Froth Fury Festival. It's for the 30th anniversary of 𝗏𝗏. Okay, that's how it's been promoted.
Yeah.
Well, what does that album mean to you then and now?
I mean, you know, I think it's difficult for anybody to look at their own music, the music they've been involved with, the way other people do. You know, it's all kind of the same to me. You know, the only difference is where I was in my life when we made that record. If I reflect, I can kind of see how it was a different time period for us. And Haas was a sort of turning point for our band. The first two records we made were, I mean, I can barely listen to the first one, and we made it in 3 days. It was a live record, you know. And you know, we were young enough. I think we kind of still thought we had some ideas. Yeah, and then the second one I think was better. We were finding ourselves, you know, our identity. But Haas is the record, in my opinion, it's the record where at least I, as a songwriter, I thought there aren't really any rules. I'm just going to write different kinds of songs. To me, you know, when one band does all kinds of stuff, it's all going to sound like that band. So it sort of doesn't matter. But, you know, at the time, I remember thinking, you know, we could have some slower songs. They don't all have to be this kind of 90s punk thing that we're associated with. And I just wrote a bunch of songs, and we just, the drummer, the original drummer, Derek, and I, he wanted to do he wanted to go farther out, you know, into, so the two of us, I think, you know, we're kind of, I don't know. So maybe that record was a little more securing an identity for the band. Maybe, I don't know. Like I said, it's difficult to really judge these things, but that's how it felt.
Naming your favorite child. Yeah.
Yeah, right. They're all the same. They're all a disappointment.
As they get older, you go,
we
perhaps
love
the mistakes
them.
are made. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's interesting you say, because it was about the third album part, because so many bands, it's their third album that essentially defines them, or I believe it is. Again, I mean, if we talk Iron Maiden, it is Number of the Beast, defines them. If you talk Metallica, it's Master of Puppets, defines them.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, did you feel that even though it made you who you guys were then in '95, do you think as time went on, it actually restricted what you could do?
No, because, you know, like when we put that record out, our peer bands, I remember this distinctly, getting calls from friends of mine that were in other bands and saying, hey, just heard this new record you guys made. Dude, nice job. It's really different. You know, it's like there's some great, you know, people were reacting to it like we had created some kind of completely new landscape or something, you know. And in hindsight, I mean, of course, that's not true at all. But yeah, I think it felt like we did something different. You know, I don't know. You know, I mean, now you look back on these things and everything gets smaller. That's just how it is when you look back. But at the time, it felt special. And it felt like we kind of found ourselves, and it didn't feel like we pigeonholed ourselves at all. I felt like after that record, we could have gone anywhere. The question I have is, did I make a mistake on the next record? You know, the path we chose on the next record. I don't know. I mean, like I said, you know, sort of the children analogy, you know, it all feels a little bit like a mistake. You know, every hindsight's 2020. You look back and you go, I kind of wish we'd done this. I wish we'd done that. But I mean, you know, in totality, we must have done something right. We're still here, you know, and we still enjoy doing what we do, and yeah, it all kind of works out. I mean, there's been a lot of bands that I've known along the way that don't exist anymore, you know. So it's all good. I'm very positive most of the time about these things. I feel very fortunate that I got to do what I've done. Yeah, yeah.
A lot of bands don't survive. What is it? I think most bands last, what, 5, 6 years a lot of them don't survive the success that comes with that. You guys will get plugging on. I mean, it's if my maths is correct, as Lagwagon, that's 9 albums and 5 EPs. But you've also got your own thing as well, okay, where you go off and
Yeah.
do your own thing. I mean, I mean, obviously, Lagwagon's this. You've then got your own solo stuff that you do. What do you get from the solo stuff you do that's hits that mark you don't get with Lagwagon?
Well, I mean, I predominantly, I mean, until the last couple solo albums, I just did the kind of singer-songwriter, guitar player, and a voice situation. I that's what I was doing, and what you get out of that is it's effortless. It's easy. You just write songs and you record them, and you might have some other musicians come in and add things, or I'll put a bunch of instruments on the stuff I do. But it's you have total creative control of that, and it doesn't feel precious in a weird way because it's just purely emotive. You just pour it out and see what happens. And I always felt, because I had Lagwagon, which much more successful thing, that was like a security thing. I could do whatever I wanted with the other projects I did, and that's a good feeling. None of the other things I've done, other than maybe the 𝗙𝗥𝗢𝗧𝗛, the Me First and the 𝗙𝗥𝗢𝗧𝗛 band, did all that well, but it didn't matter to me. It
Doesn't
was
matter.
just
Yeah.
it was just a creative outlet. Yeah, and still is. I mean, I got a little out of hand for a while there. I think at one point I was in like 5 bands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember it now.
Yeah, and I think there was a point where I felt like I was just always in the studio or playing gigs, and it just got really gnarly. Um, but yeah, I don't regret any of it. It's all fun. Yeah.
I, uh, I was going to mention that if there was an opening of an envelope, you would have been there playing, but I didn't want to go there.
Yeah, I know. I mean, man, I'm guilty. I'm telling you. But you know what? I got to say, I used to look at it like this. I would watch all my peers get off tour and just go home and just sit around. They did a lot of times we had other jobs because we weren't making the kind of money that we could just live off music. But still, people were really okay with like just going to the bong. You know what I mean? Just going home and smoking weed and watching TV and da da da. And I've never been like that. I feel when idle hands, the old saying is the devil's work for me. I don't do well doing nothing. So when the band would tour a bunch after we made a record and that cycle was over, and then it was like, okay, see you guys in a year, I'd be like, oh, well, I'm not going to fucking sit around for a year. I mean, I like my bike. I like riding my bicycle, but not that much. I gotta have some kind of outlet here. So for me, it was always, I always looked at it like, it's hard not to say things that sound pretentious. I don't always have the best words, but it's like if you're going to be an artist of any kind, you should just keep creating, right? It's not like if you were a writer, you just stop writing, or if you're a painter, you just don't paint. So yeah, just keep making music and see what happens. And then sometimes you make something and you realize, wow, this is pretty cool. Maybe we should see if anybody wants to put it out. And maybe that's where, maybe that's where the judgment gets questionable. But the actual just making and creating of things is, yeah, it's what probably everybody should be doing, I think. I don't know.
It's I have seen Me First and the 𝗙𝗥𝗢𝗧𝗛 a few times because they do come to Australia quite a bit, and
Yeah.
yeah, and it's interesting how many of them songs that you've all written, by the way, yourselves, they're all originals. Yeah, I always remember that
Oh,
being
right.
we
Yeah.
wrote this one, and you go, it sounds like Britney fucking Spears. Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite line that Spike has, and he's been doing it since the beginning of the band, and it's just very no nonsense. Song ends, he says a little spiel. He's always got something to say, and then he says, "This next one's a cover." And we go on to the next song, and he says that so many times in every set that I always laugh. It always makes me laugh. You know, it's
Absurdity. Yeah.
this next
So
one's
let's
a cover.
So moving it to Australia, so 9 shows
Yeah.
over here in January, a couple of Froth and Fury shows as well, which we'll speak about.
Yeah.
What can we expect when you get here? Like, you're doing a Hoss album, is it start to finish? Is it just a couple of tracks?
Well, the plan is to do one of those album shows where we play the whole album. You know, whether we start the set with the album or we end the set with I don't know. You know, it's tricky with Hoss. Some of the albums, they end in a way that it makes sense for it to be later in the set. Hoss, the last one on Hoss is a really different song for us. It's a slow kind of drudging thing. So I think we'll probably open with the album at the set. Now, that said, those albums are like 30 minutes long. If we were just to go on tour and go, all right, here's Hoss. See you later, guys. Thanks for giving us $30 or whatever. You got 30 minutes of music. That's $1 a minute. You know, I mean, it's just hilarious. Like, you basically play the album and then you play 2 other sets, or, you know, 2 other, that's a third of the set. I don't know at a festival because there'll be a limit. But yeah, the plan is to play Hoss, and we've advertised it that way. So yeah, that'll happen. It's really not a very long record, like I said. So there'll be a lot more music besides that. And then I just have to look at what our set times are for the set. And what I do is I just craft a bunch of different sets, and then the band picks the ones they like. And that's what we do. That's how we do it. It's pretty easy.
It's either that or you do a spoken word tour. You know, you just speak in between the songs and just drag it out longer and longer.
Right. Yeah.
20-minute Led
Okay.
Zeppelin jam.
I'm going to talk about the process of how we recorded the bass guitar on this next one. Yeah, right. Can you imagine? Just bore people to tears. No, yeah, you just, you know, play some other hits. Yeah.
What is it? Bit of a kind of a throwaway question, but it's one that always goes down quite well in this neck of the woods. What is it about Australia that excites you guys about coming here? Or, you know, what sort of memories do you have of previous tours?
I mean, tour for me as I've gotten older is sort of about 3 things. It's about the geography, you know, the places that we go that are beautiful, and the things that over the years, the many, many years of doing this, you know, you have sort of spots, kind of like you look forward to go see and do while you're in a place. And then the other one is food. Food is, I mean, I'm kind of I guess what you call a foodie now. I mean, I honestly, the show is sort of, okay, there's a show. There's always a show, and there's always going to be a sound check. But what am I going to do in between those things and after those things, you know? And how much time do we have? Do we have days off? In Australia, it's great. You get a lot of days off, so there's a lot of time to actually venture and do things. And yeah, I mean, I have favorite restaurants. Sometimes they close, but most of the time they stay open. And places like Australia, they're still there. So, you know, and then the third thing is friends. I mean, I have made a lot of very close friends over the years. There's no city we go to anywhere in the world that I don't have friends. I don't know how that happened, but it did. And when I was younger, it was pubs, punk rock bars, rock and roll bars, whatever. It was that. And not so much anymore, you know? I know I have to get a certain amount of sleep to be able to sing. And so, you know, I might go out after shows, but generally it's going to dinner or breakfast or, you know, or going to the beach or going for a hike or going lawn bowling. That's a big one out there. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. If you got a day off and there's a place to bowl, I mean, I love that. You know, I was telling somebody the other day from Australia, I was doing an interview yesterday, actually, and I talked about this. I moved a few years ago to the house I'm in now, and the only time I've ever, but bowlers, I think you guys call it, bowlers, is that right? Yeah, the only time I've ever done that is in Australia, and mostly in Melbourne. And just go with a couple old friends of mine. And the first time I went, I was like, this is the best. We're just drinking beer and smoking cigarettes and, you know, playing this super fun game with friends. Anyway, This place I just moved into, 1 block away, there's a bowler, there's a place, lawn bowling place, and I keep going up there because it's got a phone number of how to join, and I go up there all the time. I'm trying to get mates of mine here, you know, to get into it, but of course they're like, "What? I don't do that." They don't know what it is. They don't really. But it's also every time I go there, it's just a bunch of much older people. You know, yeah, they're little leagues and stuff that are always playing, and I think, well, I'm not young. I got this gray beard, but if I show up, I mean, they might be like, "Who's this young whippersnapper? We got to get him." Yeah.
Fresh meat.
Fresh meat. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. I mean, I always have a great time there. I love it there. Yeah.
It's just I don't do it, but I have family members who've done it, and I have done it on occasion. For me, it fits there the same way like some people play golf or they go fishing. It's just somewhere to just switch off from the shit of everyday life, and you just you know, play balls.
Yeah, and it's so easy. It's just easy. It's like right there. Too easy, as you guys say. Yeah.